Okay, for many organizations, I guess the data landscape could perhaps be described, maybe it's a bit harsh, but chaotic and unusable. Certainly unstructured data is something of a major challenge. What's going on there, if you like?
Look, I think unstructured data has been essentially has been ignored for for as long as it's been created, and there's been certain activities within an organization that have sort of tried to bring it under control, and that might be some compliance stuff, certainly privacy more recently, but really for the most part, it's been too hard, too big, too amorphous in too many places. And so it's been waiting for the kind of right compelling business reason to get it organized, and suddenly one has arrived, which is AI. Suddenly to really take advantage of AI technologies, you need your structured data organized, and so that's why we're suddenly seeing this spotlight shined on organizational data, which has to this point been a bit of a let's see no evil,
Yeah.
speak no evil scenarios.
And as I say, I guess, as long as the businesses sort of carried on in some shape or
Yeah.
form, it wasn't a sort of, business ruiner or, deal breaker. But as you say,
Mm.
AI's arrived. And as far as I understand it, in simple terms, if your data is not structured, if it's a bit of a mess, then AI is, I won't say useless, but you struggle to get the true value out of AI. Is that fair?
Yeah, look, I had this analogy. I was chatting to a client the other day, and I said, AI is, if you think of AI as you want it to help you with a workload, and so you're saying to it, please help me find information or create information for me, to generate some information, and it'll say, oh, well, where's all your source information? And you'll go, oh, you need to point it at really good source information. And sort of the analogy is if your source information is a library, are all the books in your library, your unstructured data, they have a beautiful title on the spine and a lovely précis of what the book is, and they're in the right shelf in the library, or are they a pile in the middle of the library? And if they're a pile in the middle of the library and you bring AI in and say, can you help me write my RFP? It'll go, where are your RFPs? And you go, oh, in the pile somewhere. And it goes, great. And it just goes off and tries and finds stuff. And guess what you get out of that? You don't get an accurate answer. You don't get a high quality answer. And you could even get a dangerous answer. And so, really what you have to do is bring AI into the room. And when it says, where are all our RFPs? Because I want to help you generate RFPs, you go, they're right here on this shelf. These are the RFPs you can use. And if you can do that, well, you get a great outcome. But when I said this, I chatted to this client and I said, so what's your data like? Is it a library with a pile of books in the middle of the room? And they said, no, it's 35 libraries and half the books aren't even in the library. So that's the simplest analogy. If you're trying to bring somebody in, an assistant of any description, and you want them to give you a high quality, repeatable outcome, you've got to give them beautifully high, prepared high quality data as a starting point. And so that's the transformation organizations have to go through, from the pile of books in the libraries or not in the libraries to, books with titles on the spine, précis of the book in the right shelf, and even a section that says never give to AI. Never give these books under any circumstances to AI. That's where you've got to get to.
Yeah, so I suppose from the customer you described there, and that would be the majority, I guess, believe or that they're not AI ready because of the state of their data. But obviously the frustration, I suppose, them is they know that the benefits of getting it right are huge when it comes to AI. So the challenge, I mean, what is the challenge involved? It sounds, as the analogy you use, obviously, if you've got a whole load of books in all different locations and you're trying to, categorize them, whether it's by, colors of spine or alphabetically, it's going to take quite a while to do it. But presumably, with the digital technology, it's maybe not quite such a laborious process. But what's involved, I suppose?
Well, interestingly enough, it's sort of a bit of an AI to the rescue concept, is you can actually use AI now to actually do the organizing, like the starting, like we sort of, in a pithy way to say to organizations, the first use case for AI is to get your data ready for AI, that you can now use it to do this categorization in an organization. And it's also about, where do I start? I don't want to start by trying to fix all my data or get all my data ready. What is my current use case? What is the best use case for me to begin this process? Have I identified that? And okay, what is the data set that it would need? So as I sort of threw it out before, like we're working with some government organizations, they want to start with RFPs. I'd like to generate RFPs. Okay, cool. Well, where are your current RFPs everywhere? Well, let's help you find them and organize them. So let's start with a small data set, prove a use case, and then you can expand from there. So I think it's a bit overwhelming to start with, but I think what's great now is the same technology you're trying to start leveraging in your organization is the technology that's going to help you get there quicker.
Okay, and if I understand correctly, that's where yourselves and intelligent information management solutions come into play. So, I mean, obviously, you've given us a sort of a sort of resume or summary of what happens, but perhaps in more detail, how do what's the process from the early steps to the final result where everything is ship shape and AI ready, if you like.
Yeah, like I said, it's the best way to start is often with, like I said, it's a use case and you're looking for a data set. Or it can also be a lot of organizations they sort of know, look, we've got three big repositories. We've got our file share, SharePoint, Teams. There's a few places that we know are, if we can just get those organized, we'd be able to we could start leveraging Copilot. We could start leveraging Gen AI in a really meaningful way. So I think it's about, like I said, so you can come in and you can get those repositories organized really quickly. And organizations, is a lot about what there's a whole bunch of data that's superfluous, it's duplicate, that has no business value. How do we get that out of the way so at least the data that has business value, that's the data that we want to expose to the AI tools. And we also want to make sure that the data with business value that's not sensitive or has IP or information that shouldn't be in it, like let's get that data ready and start exposing it to these AI tools and experimenting in a way that we can start showing value. So get the data set, shrink it, and then say this is what we can start playing with. And like I said, hopefully use case based, but if not, we can still help you get to a point of we don't know what our use case is, but we do know it's going to be in SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, file shares. Can we get those organized as a starting point?
And in terms of the sort of impetus for that, is there a particular job title or job function that's best placed to sort of coordinate this, or is part of the problem that whether it's the data storage folks, the analytics folks, the business case, who owns this project typically when you get involved, or is there no such thing as a typical AI data?
No, I think what we're seeing are probably a series of roles that are emerging because of the use case and the business need to adopt AI, and they are this chief AI officers and data officers and information officers are all playing a role. And then you have the business owners of departments who can really see that this technology is going to transform them. So quite often we're talking to a lot of chief legal officers, they have very complex documents with, huge amount of historical contracts. How can they start to process and understand what's in those without having to send them off to some consulting firm with 1,000 people in a room to interrogate them, so so I think it's a combination of the C-suite who have now owned the digital, the AI transformation of their business, coupled with the business leaders who are seeing that it's going to really make it's their business units is right for evolution with AI.
Okay, and in terms of I mean, clearly, depending on the size of the organization and the amount of data, that will have an impact on the time. But how easy is the process? Is it fairly straightforward in the sense that you identify where your data is and what you want and where it needs to be, etc.? Or can it be, are there various pitfalls along the way that if you're not careful, you end up sort of going round in circles, shall we say, rather than getting where you need to be?
Yeah, I think to get a really, like I said, we come back to a high quality, repeatable outcome out of AI. I ask a question, I'm asking it to do a workload for me. Will it do that with the same results every time, or will it give me a hallucination and I get different results? So what I'm trying to get to is, and this is what they talk about as trust. How do I get to a point of trust in the outcome of AI? And so a lot of that is, the pitfall is, well, where is your data in the first place? And most people go, it's it used to be here, now it's there, we're moving it over there, there's a whole new team that's starting there. So it's the ability to have tools that can go, that's okay, we can look across those silos and begin to create a blueprint of where the critical data is that you now want to feed into these tools. So I think that's the first point is sometimes it's the too hard basket as a starting point to go, no, we can give us enough locations that we can quickly interrogate and go, okay, now we've got the crown jewels that we're looking for. We can now bring those together to help you with your AI project. So I think the pitfalls for us too is thinking that there are people who haven't worked out that actually the AI toolkit is the toolkit that's going to solve the problem. They're still thinking about how do I get my data, how do I apply sensitivity labels? How do I get it organized? And I'm still relying on people. Okay, people, can you go classify the data properly so that we can use it in an AI tool? Well, people haven't been doing that properly for 30 years. So why are they suddenly going to start doing it today? It's not their day job. It's not what they do. So how do I take these manual workloads away to help me get my data incredibly well prepared so that it can be leveraged. So I think like I said, I think this is evolving in real time. And what's making it evolve are people like Gartner saying, if your data's not AI ready, then you can't go forward. So there used to be AI projects and they're getting funding, but the idea I've got to clean my data or get my data prepared for the AI project, that in the C-suite's mind, that was different. Hang on, isn't my data already prepared? Well, in a row and column it is. In a structured data system, it's more likely to be, but your values in your unstructured data. So what we're seeing really happening in real time is people are going, oh, that prepare my data project and my implement AI solutions is now becoming a single project. So I think, well, if you'd asked me this question 3 months ago, it would be the pitfall was people think their data's ready. Now they've worked that out. It's actually, how do I bring these projects in line so that I don't find my AI use case and then I stop because I go, oh, my data's a mess. I have to stop, which is, I don't know, 50% of AI projects are stopping right now because the pilot worked. It was on a lovely subset of beautifully curated data. Now I want to apply it to the enterprise. Okay, stop. You just found a whole bunch of stuff I didn't want you to, and that's in the model. So I think that realization is happening, and so so bringing that together, and then what tools can I use to accelerate the preparation of the data so that I don't get stuck there.
And presumably as well, alongside getting the historical data into the right location and structure, it's important that all the data that's being generated sort of from the point you start onwards is I can't say you can stop people creating unstructured data, but as they create it, you've got to try and give it some structure so you don't have to repeat the exercise in 18 months' time when you realize you've got a whole load new unstructured data that's causing problems. Is that right?
Well, there's a theory that actually the fact that AI can generate so much content now, that content generation is going to accelerate. And so absolutely. So you want to be able to do the same thing. So to use the toolkit that you've used to help you get your unstructured mess into a beautiful, essentially take unstructured data and turn it into beautiful structured data so it can be leveraged. That process is continuous. So more data is being created. That's cool. Turn that, that's got to now become part of the, from unstructured to structured layer of it. But so it is a continual process. Data creation is going to accelerate. And there's also a process of, as more and more decisions are made by AI, how do you ensure that you understand the lineage of the data that's used to make that decision? Because those decisions are going to end up in a court of law at some point, and you want to be able to say, we made this decision with AI, and here's the lineage of all the documents and information that it used to help come up with that answer or that decision that it made, and we can point to all of that as a way of justifying how we validated this decision to be used within our organization. So there's a few things. It's continually managing the process of organizing the data, and then capturing the lineage and the audit of how was that data used to generate outcomes in AI that are then used to drive business decisions.
And presumably this ongoing process can be, as I think you've explained, completely automated. So it's not like employees have any responsibility to remember, when they've created some data that they have to then, put it somewhere or whatever. That's not their problem. They can carry on business as usual. And in the background, as AI automation is doing the necessary classification, etc. Is that right?
It's exactly right. So it should take the entire concept away from the end user. Just behave, they work, they create, and in a way we don't care. We shouldn't care where they save stuff or whether they've classified it properly, or the idea of the tech is it's sitting underneath as a sentinel. It's watching what they're doing and it's doing all that work on your behalf. So your organization is protected. It is, and the data is ready to be used in a meaningful way without the end user. You just work. You do what you do in your job. You create the high quality outcomes for the organization. We'll take the output of that and turn it into a strategic asset for the business, and that's autonomous. It should be completely invisible to the user. So all of the heavy lifting that users have traditionally had to do, do I have to title my document correctly? Am I supposed to save it in the right folder? All the things that we all are meant to do or don't do. The tech now will mean we don't care if you call it the wrong thing and save it in the wrong place. We will understand the strategic value of that piece of information you created, and we'll make sure that it's prepared and organized and managed the correct way.
Okay, and in terms of the sort of benefits that accrue, Clearly the AI hype is significant. Do you think the reality, the benefits that people are they being slightly missold? This dream that all this data is incredibly valuable and you're going to have amazing benefits, or is that within certain boundaries, as you say, once you've understood that certain bits of data are completely useless or don't have much value, but there is a real opportunity to make complete transformation of businesses, or at least massive difference to your business, thanks to AI and data, that combination.
I'm certainly at the end of the spectrum, which is this is unbelievably transformative, not it's overhyped. If you talk about that, the spectrum. And I don't even think we even understand how transformative it's going to be yet. I think we have this sort of instinct about it and fear of it, a bit of a combination. However, the ability for one person to do a job and get a response in real time that took them 3 weeks and 30 people to do. And quite often in life, it's not about the first question I ask or the first piece of understanding I have about something. It's the second and third and fourth bit of thinking I do about something and the depth I go into. If that process is compressed from, like I said, days and weeks into hours, and I have this incredible assistant who, like I joked the other day, and AI is a bit like having, it's like technology used to be an 8-year-old and you could watch it and supervise it, and there were certain things you could do in an autonomous fashion. And now you have a 22-year-old, and when you say to that 22-year-old, well, where did you study? Everywhere. What did you study? Everything. Well, to what degree? PhD level. Okay. In what language? All of them. Okay. I don't know how useful you're going to be, but I suspect you're going to be incredibly useful to me in making my life easier. And so it's a bit like we sort of know the potential, and we've yet to crack how it's going to be, but there are some definitely use cases, but it's absolutely going to change the way all businesses work, and the time to the critical decision-making piece of content that you need, that's going to be the massive shrinking point. And so therefore strategic decisions, critical thinking, that's all going to happen so much faster with this, incredibly well-educated assistant who, what they don't know is about you and your business, but that's the thing they pick up really quickly. And once they know that, then they become really useful.
Okay, and in terms of the intelligent information management solutions, what's the opportunity you see for yourselves? And obviously, I think that the channel that you help support as well. So just how big is the opportunity to help end users? I mean, can the channel sort of own this and run it for people, or are they just the facilitator, or what's the opportunity, if you like?
So when you say channel, just to clarify that for
I mean,
me.
service providers or value
Oh,
added.
yeah.
I mean, in terms of the model, I mean, presumably
Mm.
you will sell direct to end users who can do it themselves, but
Mm.
potentially service providers can stand up
Yeah.
a service using your technology. Is that right?
Yeah. We were talking with a channel partner the other day, and they very, um, their description was, we're, as a company, we're doing the dirty work that people don't want to do, which is go and get this mess organized. But once the mess is organized, once we've taken unstructured data and made it high quality structured data, incredibly well organized, standardized, enriched, then the ability for channel and service partners to say, how do we get, our time to value projects we can get out of this data now is incredibly fast. The quality of the projects we can do, the transformational nature of the projects we can do are huge. So the channel partners for us are seeing us as the foundation of quality data that we create means that they've got years of high time to value, high quality work that they can be working with their business partners on unlocking business value. So it's absolutely for us a platform that is designed to help service providers, people who are going to help organizations disrupt their business with AI, people who are going to help them engineer their business. We are the foundation platform to allow them to really drive value for the organization.
And just to I mean, maybe I should have asked this at the very start of the conversation, but I guess it'd be good to understand a bit more about yourselves, and particularly, obviously, the future roadmap as what you can share. Clearly this opportunity, as we discussed, is huge. So where are you now, if you like, and where do you want to be into the future in terms of what it is you can bring to the party, if you like?
Yeah, so I mean, our background, we've come from a compliance background. The whole company has been in and around the regulatory compliance space for 15, 20 years. So we really understand data through a regulatory compliance framework. And I think that's important when you're preparing data, is that we are preparing data in a way that doesn't expose corporate secrets faster. We understand what needs to be protected, how you should protect it, but and what can be exposed upstream to AI models. Where we see the future of this is, how do we help people The big gap now is trust. How do I trust what I'm going to get from using AI to help me generate answers or help me interrogate my business? And so a lot of the work we're doing is how do we organize data at scale, but how do we help you use multiple AI models to pressure test the outcomes you're getting from the initial questions you're asking so that you get to a point of trust really quickly. And part of that is, we talked about the ability to have sort of lineage. I've asked a question, the outcome has been cited, there's 5 documents it's used. Here's the section of the document it's used to actually craft this answer. I can go look at the source data. I can cite that in an audit log. So for us, it's the trust gap is what we're building into the platform right now. How do you, as an organization, trust the outcomes you're getting from AI? And once you do that, you'll then start accelerating. And then for us, the next stage of our IP is we can see that there's lots of AI models that are appearing all the time that are really business specific. I mean, you're going to see those arrive more and more quickly. How quickly can you curate data from within your organization and service those new models and get an outcome from those models and apply the learnings from those models to your business rapidly? So it's really about that curation of data to the models, helping people experiment with AI faster, but still having the safety of we tested that, but we trust the outcome, or we didn't trust the outcome, and therefore we're not going to use that.
Okay, and maybe just finally for sort of the end user, clearly again, everyone's talking about AI, and maybe they're all thinking, "Oh, my competitors are doing." People are worried that they're getting left behind. Is there a sort of time frame you think that people have, to get their house in order before they will start, suffering significantly, against the competition if they've got their act together, or how do you see the window of opportunity, if I can put it like that, to get yourself ready for AI and data, or is it already too late? Hopefully it's not, but
No. Every single company we know, the books are still a pile of in the middle of the floor.
They're still in the middle of the room.
There's very few people. There will be your beautiful bookshelf behind you where I can see where everything's organized. No one's company's like that yet. So everybody's at the starting point. Again, I think it's the organizations who have worked out the use case. They're the ones who are accelerating. There's people who are saying, "Oh, turn on Copilot and see how we go." Great. Sure. But there are people who are saying, actually, how does this fundamentally change this process in my organization, that if we could change that really moves the needle? The people who are doing the thinking about that, they're the ones who are accelerating, because then they're going to say, okay, let's go clean up. Let's go get that data set organized quickly. That's the data. We don't have to get everything done, but if we get that data set organized, then we can really accelerate on this. And we're working with some companies who've used that in the legal space, where they are making tens of millions of dollars extra out of the contracts they've already signed, right? So I haven't had to do any work to make money that's already locked in the enterprise and the content of the enterprise that no one could get to before. So there are people who are moving the needle right now, and they're the ones who are going to accelerate, and certainly the ones who value data prep first. There's some people who are coming top down, apply AI, do some experimentation. Oh, the data's not ready. Now go get the data ready. And there's people who are going, no, we get that the data's got to be fixed. Let's start with we know where our important business data is. Let's get going there. Let's get that organized while we work on our business plan. So it's certainly, everyone's still at the start gate, and there are certain people who are, they're in front and you can see them. But the vast majority of people are, we're all trying to work it out. So you're not left behind if you haven't started. This is the beginning of the next 2 years. I think we would just say, if you see how quickly we've gone from no one really considering AI as a business tool, or sort of a bit esoteric, and now it's ubiquitous. That time frame has been, what, a year, 18 months? It hasn't taken that long, So I think it is certainly moving faster than any other technology revolution we've seen. And maybe that's overstating it, because I'm in the moment. There's a bit of, but that's certainly what it feels like.
Okay, I mean, it's been brilliant to chat, and some fascinating insights into what's going on. So Jesse, just really appreciate the time you give me. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.